Good evening, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to another edition of the JSY Talks Football. We're going to get into a little bit with the Leeds United and Birmingham game, Wayne Rooney's sacking, a few transfers that are floating around for Leeds United at the minute. Before we get into anything, smash a like on the channel, subscribe if you're new. Obviously, check Stuart out the disabled team, EVIE down at the Discord of people. Obviously, should Joe as well, doing a few on there. Check us all out. First of all, nice to see Mr. Rooney now vacating the Birmingham City job. Performance-wise, Birmingham didn't really show up yesterday. I can really understand why they've sacked him. 15 games, 2 wins, 13% win rate, which is quite poor for the manager, in my opinion. The crowd were on his back a lot yesterday. There wasn't happy, so it was the right call. A few managers that I quoted for the job are Jesse March being one. Yeah. John Eustace would be interested on going back there if he got offered it, which probably shouldn't have sacked him in first place anyway. But moving on from that, I just want to go around and everybody's talking the game. You start with you?
Yeah, there were some changes, weren't there? He started Bamford, which were nice to see. I've been crying out for it. I think before the people start beating on Bamford, we needed to see what he could do from the start. Now, before anybody gets excited, it were only Birmingham we played even. It were only Birmingham, so I'm not going to get too overexcited saying Bamford's back. Bamford's going to be his saviour. But it was nice to see a number 9 player, number 9 role. It really was. It's Rutter. I thought Rutter were brilliant yesterday. I thought Rutter were fantastic. He were all over the pitch for me. It was sad to see the breakdown again, but it was good to see that he brought Firpo on, and I thought he were going to bring on Spence, because Spence took his bib off when he were warming up. I think Spence thought he were going to come on, but luckily, for our sake, in end, he brought on Firpo with the 2 assists. And there was some good goals involved. Bamford with his header. Brilliant goal by Dan James. I know it hit a defender and went in, but at least we won that game. We did what we had to do. We needed to get a win, and that was it against the poor Birmingham side.
Yeah, I agree. David?
Yeah, completely agree. I think we've needed the number 9 characteristics of Bamford. Now, whether Bamford is the man to take us forward is up for debate, and whether even if he can do a job this season, if it means that we maybe have to get, say we get promoted, we still need to replace him in the summer regardless. And that's not me hating on Bamford. That's just he's going to be 31 this year. He has obviously a really bad. I've just seen that there's echo on this, and I can hear it myself in my own headphones. Let's just see. Sorry if I can change it.
No, you're well in front of me. I'm trying to catch up like Stu.
Right, is that any better?
Yeah, it's
I can't hear no echo on my side.
No.
Right. What was I saying? So I think that we needed that number 9. We needed Rutter to go into the 10, and I think that was the more important thing. That it wouldn't have mattered whether it was Bamford or Pirro yesterday. I think the fact that Rutter had was able to be the number 10, I think was the most crucial part. But I think it really shows that either in January or in summer, whether we give Matteo Joseph a chance to maybe play some games and rotate him and Bamford and Pirro and actually have proper competition. I know, like Danny said the other day, that maybe Matteo Joseph is like maybe a season behind, and I completely get where he's coming from with that. But I just think we need that competition, and whether if Joseph is if it's too soon for him to come through, then maybe we need to go out and get somebody who has the same characteristics as Bamford. You know, if Bamford isn't the person to take us forward, which I genuinely don't think he is, just with his age, I think we'd be naive if we were to think that he could last, you know, the rest of the season. You know, there's still, what, 20 odd games to go. He's not going to last that long. You know, if he takes over from Pirot and comes as the main number 9, he's not going to last that long.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think I looked.
I have to agree as well, and I like Bamford. I do. I love Bamford. The reason why I like Bamford is I don't like people being, you know, beaten over head with same stick. But I'm in agreement with Evie. I think relying on Bamford for the next 20 games, it'll be a big mistake.
Yeah,
I agree
completely.
I think although he scored yesterday, and although it was a good performance, it was a shit Birmingham team, and that's what we have to remember. If he does that, and he starts, say, at Cardiff and scores and gets a few in, then that's different. But he divides a lot of opinions for me. He scored yesterday. Yeah, it's great to see him back. I totally agree with that. I don't see any issues with that. But whether a man that can carry us forward to get us into the Premiership, I'm not so sure about that. I think there's a lot of changes that were made yesterday. We've still managed to break down a very poor Birmingham team. The nice thing was to see Junior Firpo come on yesterday. He is a lot better going forward than he is defensively, but it was nice to see him get 2 assists yesterday. It was nice to see Bamford, score. It was nice to see Cooper doing the job, the old guard, as people always say. But we need a lot more than that. And we take this win as one that we should use to carry on in good stead, but we need a lot. For me, there's still a lot. Moving on from that, what were your thoughts on Junior Firpo in general yesterday, Evie?
I thought he did well in the fact that when we didn't ask too much of him defensively, because, well, Birmingham were that poor that we didn't have to, you know, nobody had to actually defend. And I think we saw there was quite a few balls over the top, and he was quite slow to get, you know, he was great getting forward, but the problem is that he doesn't have the pace to get back. And he looked a bit lethargic at times, as if he couldn't do what was.
Evie still on?
Evie's froze.
Evie's froze, aren't she? Might need to.
Right, am I back?
You're back.
You're back.
There we go. Sorry, my internet is really bad. I've had to turn it off again. I think that because he couldn't do what he was being asked to do, and had we have been up against a better team, I think that gets exploited. So for me, for as much as he did have a good game, and I'm not going to take that away, he did, going forward, but his defensive responsibilities, had he been tested properly in the slightest, he wouldn't have, you know, the goal would have come, you know, but luckily Birmingham were devoid of any kind of actual ability or passion to actually make a chance for themselves.
Stu?
Quick question: would Birmingham, that to me, that they were the worst team who's come at Welland Road, and I mean they were worse than Huddersfield.
Yeah.
So Firpo going forward, brilliant defensively. He's not the man. He's not the man. You need a proper left back who's willing to come back as well as go for do his defensive duties as well as attacking. It's all right attacking all the time, but you've got to know that you've got to get back and all. And I think Firpo sometimes can't be bothered getting back more than, you know, can't walk, you know, too slow to get back. I just don't think he likes coming back. I don't think he likes tracking back. And we need better. We need much better.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I agree with that, Stu. I think that's a really good point that, he doesn't look interested for the actual defensive responsibilities, and that it kind of echoes the fact that he started off as a striker in his career. So the fact that he has that attacking mind, but it's only because maybe he's not been consistently good at it that he's been moved further and further back on the pitch, kind of thing. But his mindset is still very attacking, but he's not good at defending. His positional aware. If you are going to be slow, like Pascal Struijk isn't that fast, but his positional awareness and his ability to read the game means that he can predict what the next pass is going to be. So then he gets himself ready for that next pass, even if he's missed the current situation that's going on. He's, he kind of reads it and say, right, well, they're going to pass it over there. So if I get myself in that position, I can cut off, I can block that cross. I can't match them for speed, but I know what they're going to do next. Whereas Junior Firpo doesn't seem to have either. And again, I don't want this to turn into a bashing Firpo session, because I'm not trying to bash him. He did a good job yesterday. He got 2 assists, and I'm really pleased for him, because whenever I've seen him interviewed, he does seem like a really nice person. But as harsh as this sounds, we're not a charity. We need a left back, and I don't know what it is about Leeds United and left backs, but there hasn't been very many notable left backs at the club for like 30 years. You can probably list them all on one hand, kind of thing, of anybody who's actually been a decent left back. And I'm talking about actual left backs, not just somebody like Stuart Dallas, for instance, playing. He's done left back, he's done right back, kind of thing, but he's a midfielder by trade. So I'm counting actual, left backs. We haven't had many of those.
That is true. That is an area where Leeds United need to strengthen, for me, a left back, because although Sam Byron was brilliant, free transferring, he's far too injury prone now. Far too injury prone, as we see yesterday. Again, he's pulled up with his hamstring again, and he's not now well oiled to do 90 minutes for 3 games. So that is an area that must be really strengthened. Jen Spence, any thoughts on why he didn't come on yesterday? He didn't look very happy on the bench.
No, he didn't. He looked miserable on the bench.
Why?
Who was it? Somebody made a good point the other day. It might have been Andrea, or it might have been Jer, but said that Farke quite often likes to have one attacking minded wing back and or full back, and one defensively minded. And obviously with Byram coming off, it made sense to have Firpo, who is more attack minded, and keep Archie Gray at left.
Evie?
Am I back?
You're back.
I think it's because it's really stormy outside. They usually like having one defensively minded, one attack minded. So having Gray at right back and Firpo at left back made more sense, because Gray will often stay back. Although that's not what I've seen recently. Gray yesterday was getting, he was just outside of the 9-yard box. Like quite a few times he got up, and then quite a few times, had Birmingham been a better team, it meant that he would get caught out in possession and couldn't track back fast enough.
Yeah,
you're right. We did leave a lot of space in behind, and if it weren't for Roden, with his pace, he put in with it 2 or 3 in first half. He he got across and defended really well, because I think Cooper got caught out a few times as well yesterday.
Yeah, he covered well, did Rodon. But they did get in a fair few, you know, I think twice they got in, didn't they, Stu? And Clarkson did make, I suppose, two comfortable saves, to be honest. And the young man did well to say it was his first start.
Did you hear him barking orders as well? He were barking at his defenders. You know, he was telling his defender, he was shouting at his defenders and stuff, which I thought were really good to see. It's his first start this season for Leeds. You know, in Championship. I thought he controlled his box well as well when he needed to.
Yeah, I agree with that. I thought overall it was a professional performance that, you know, we did because we bet a poor team in them. But if we want to be better, you know, there's a lot there that can be done with it, Stu. For me, you know, centre back wise, although Cooper's come in, where does Charlie Cresswell come into any of this? Because he can't get a sniff. Why not?
Well, apparently, according to Daniel Farker, he's happy for him to go. He's happy for him to leave. He said that several clubs, have been in for him, and he says that we will see what happens with Charlie. He is a confident, proud player, so he's happy. I think he's happy to let him go.
I know there's a fair few teams in for him: Sunderland, Blackburn, Ipswich, but why hasn't he kind of had that bit of a chance to start at centre back? Because even though he said about Liam Cooper, is realistically his game is only going to play at Peterborough, really, Charlie Cresswell. Looking from his point of view, he probably looks at it as, well, I've got people knocking on my door. I can go out and play some football, and that's all he clearly wants to do. He didn't have a bad Euro for under 21s. I actually think he's a really decent player if you play him, and I think it's unfortunate for him that he's going to have to go and look elsewhere. When if we get an injury to Rodon and we let him go, you've got a big problem there for me. Evie?
Yeah, I agree. I feel bad for him, in all honesty. I think that he should have been played more. I think that there's been the opportunity to play him more as well. We've had games where we've been quite comfortable, and we've maybe used as many attacking changes as we need, and maybe we could have rested Rodon. Maybe we could have, brought Cooper and Cresswell on together, or just swapped Rodon out and kept Strauch on. There's been ways where we could have adjusted things to get him in. So yeah, I feel bad for him, to be honest. I think that he should have been, and it seems to be a repeating theme for quite a few younger players, that we allow them to progress to a certain point and then are unwilling to actually allow them to jump to the next step, and then they end up having to go out in order to get that experience and potentially even on a permanent, and then we lose out on maybe a good player. I'm not saying that he could actually make it, as maybe Millwall, I'm not saying Millwall is his level, but maybe a higher end Championship club is his level, and we're obviously looking to become a Premier League team, at the end of the season. But we're not helping ourselves and we're not helping him. So we're stuck between a rock and a hard place. We either keep him and his progression stays where it is. But in order for Leeds to get promoted, and for as much as I like Charlie Cresswell, my loyalty lies to Leeds, not individual players. And I want what's best for the team. And we have to back the manager, Maybe Bielsa would have stayed, maybe Bielsa would have left at the end of the 21-22 season regardless. But the biggest there was only ever going to be one ending when they didn't back him in that January transfer window with all of the injuries that we had. And I don't want to see that again, especially when this season is such a vital one for getting promoted and for being able to keep the players that we have. Or at least, even if we got promoted and they decided that they wanted to go, we'd be able to get a far more competitive price for them if we're coming from a place of strength rather than a place of weakness by still being in the Championship kind of thing. So if Farke doesn't see that Cresswell is the centre-back that he wants, we have to trust him, even if we disagree, because at the end of the day, he's been paid the money to do the job. We're not, we don't know what's going on behind the scenes. So if we do sell him, I hope we put a sell-on clause, because I do think that he has the potential. Just maybe Farke's not the one to get the potential out of him. Maybe he needs a club slightly out of the spotlight in order to actually flourish and be given that chance.
Yeah.
This may sound a bit hypocritical, and I don't want it to come across as big-headed, but there are some lower-end Premier League teams that are not as big as Leeds United are. Even though we're in the Championship, and it's easier to maybe even take a step up to the Premier League in a team that doesn't have as much pressure on them than it is right now. Leeds aren't just a Championship club. We're a Championship club that needs realistically to get promoted this season, and that's a massive amount of pressure. And maybe Farke doesn't think that he can handle that pressure. We just have to trust him, and that's it's not gonna. We can moan about it as much as we want, but we have to back the manager, and the club has to back the manager.
Yeah, I agree with that, Evie. I think you're bang on. I think it's been unfortunate for him because he just hasn't been given the chance, and I think he needs to go away, whether that's on, whether that's a loan, a permanent deal, and get some minutes in his legs. And it just worries me that if we get an injury to Rodon and we let him go out on loan and we don't bring in sufficient cover, that we're left a little bit stranded by this, because it could bite him on arse in a sense, and I wouldn't want to see that happen. But I really do understand his why he wants to go out, and he's got quite a lot of offers there and some decent Championship clubs. I mean, I wouldn't want to see him to go to one of our rivals, but good luck to him if he does go out, and maybe that's what he needs. Unfortunately, Patrick Bamford now will be staying with us at least till the summer. We have to make use of that. I think it looked better with him at Perot at the 10 and Bamford at the 9. I think it worked nicely together. I think that really interchange were nice. It was nice to see a striker in the box, pressing, getting about. But for me, John Ruddy were poor yesterday. That first one, it was questionable. Second one, it was sloppy defending on their behalf, and we should have had a fair few more. But still, Birmingham did get behind us 2 or 3 times, where we need to be strengthening up a bit on there. But overall, yeah, I think it was nice to see him get 2 assists. I'm not getting off my tits about it, because it was against a Birmingham team that were piss poor, to be honest.
Yeah.
There's no point saying, somebody really good and we bet them.
Don't you still think that we have to take the positives from the fact that we beat a team that we should be beating? Because how often recently, especially, have we dropped, even if we've not lost, we've dropped points to those teams. So for as much as, I completely agree, they were shocking. To be honest, I think them and Ipswich, and I know that may be a bit controversial, were the poorest teams that we've seen at Elland Road this year, because Ipswich didn't offer anything. They had 2 shots all game, no shots on target. At least Birmingham had 8 shots, 1 on target. So by the stats alone, they looked like a better team. But we have to kind of congratulate ourselves for doing what we should have been doing all of these times. Rotherham were poor, Stoke were poor, Coventry were poor. And, Sheffield Wednesday were poor. That's the only result, actually, that I will caveat. Obviously, that one was after the transfer window. But what was it, 14 hours before we played that game, we had Sinisterra leaving. So it still meant that mentally the players are not where they should have been. So I still kind of count that result in the August. I know it was in September, but I still kind of count it in that kind of era of things. And I think when we play Sheffield Wednesday away, I think we'll batter them as long as we've got this away formula turned around. Yeah. So yes, Birmingham were shocking. They were. And we shouldn't be getting all, Firpo's the next kind of, coming of Christ kind of thing. But, we have to give ourselves a pat on the back. We did what we should have been doing. And it's maybe the actual, every time we get a really good result, we're like, this is it. Leeds are going to go on this unbeaten run now. And we've done it for maybe 2 games and then we've stalled again, got a draw, dropped some points, whatever. But maybe this is the breakthrough because, Farke's changed something. He's admitted that maybe his system wasn't working. Whether, he's admitted he watches games back. He listens to what people say. And people keep saying that that's a sign of a weak and a poor manager. But why? Why is listening to what people say about, you don't have to, you can completely ignore it. That's your choice. But if you say, you know what, let's give it a go, and then it works, and then you can improve the players, they start playing for you even more, we start being more clinical. Why is that a bad manager if you're listening to what other people are saying? A bad manager for me is like, what's that phrase of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result. So if he's willing to listen to other people, for me that's a sign of a strength in manager, not weakness. If you're willing to say, hands up, fine, let's do things slightly differently, let's change it and let's push on from there. I think that's great. I don't think that's poor. I think that's a sign of a competent manager that's willing to say, right, maybe this is different to the clubs that I've worked at before. Maybe I do need to change something. Maybe I do need to not be as stubborn because there's a pattern emerging here, and it seems to happen when we're away from home. It seems to happen when we don't have that kind of the cauldron that has been Elland Road. And I don't know whether you two noticed, but it was a bit quieter yesterday at the ground. Like it was a bit
nervous.
It just seemed a bit kind of like we were on edge. Whoever scored that first goal for me was vital. And then the atmosphere did seem to improve, but it kind of, we've taken a couple of steps back in the atmosphere because of those 2 away results. So hopefully that changes and we get back to the lively, nasty atmosphere that, everybody comes and expects at Elland Road.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I think it was a bit flat at Elland Road yesterday. Maybe people were nervous of that, thinking, because a lot of people were saying, I can see Birmingham winning here and we'll save Rooney's job. Thank God that didn't happen. And I don't know about you, Stu, but I thought the atmosphere was a bit flat yesterday. I don't know about yourself.
I think it was more nervous atmosphere. We knew we're coming into that game off of 2 back-to-back defeats. We want, the only thing what I said it before about the only thing what were giving me that crumb of hope against Birmingham was his own record, and I think the fans didn't quite have the confidence to get that result. Does that make sense? I think they were nervous that we could have even drawn that game or even lost that game. Heaven forbid, you know what I mean? But like Evie says, as soon as we got that goal, the atmosphere picked up. And the first goal was crucial, Evie. The first goal was crucial. Is this Farke's? I know Daniel Farke got Norwich promoted with a record number of points, but this is a bigger job than what Norwich was. I think so.
Yeah.
Oh, 100%. It's his biggest job of his career in my eyes. I don't mean that to sound big-headed, but I'm not saying that we're a bigger club than the other clubs that he's managed, but the expectation that is on his shoulders right now, and maybe it's unrealistic to a certain degree because he came in so late in the summer. Obviously the transfer window in the summer was just so chaotic, and obviously we've had injuries. He believes in his starting 11 and maybe a couple of subs, but he doesn't believe in his squad, in my eyes and in my opinion. From what I've seen, I don't think he trusts the whole of his squad. I think he brings players on when we've won the game. And I think, obviously I've said a few times that I don't think that we've got game changers on the bench. I think the only person that has actually affected a game when he came on the pitch was Dan James at Millwall. Other than that, I don't think we've got a brilliant starting 11, but Somerville isn't on the bench. Somerville's starting. So for me, he's not a game changer from the bench. We've got game changers within the game. And we even saw it actually at that Stoke game. Somerville and Dan James came on and we looked livelier. We lost, but actually, had they have started those games, for me, we win. So I think that we need more game changers, and we don't have them right now. And I think maybe that's what we need to look for. If we left back 10, 9, centre back if Cresswell goes. To be honest, even before Cresswell goes, I think we need another centre back anyway, because Cooper's doing okay, but Cooper is also another one that can't stay fit. So we just need a centre back, and we need a centre back who is 2-footed. I know that type of player may not exist within the Championship kind of level, but that's the ideal solution, is cover. If we're going to let Cresswell go out, we need cover for Rodon. We need cover for Strauch/Cooper, because if Cooper gets an injury, he did go down a couple of times yesterday. I don't know whether you guys noticed that, but there were times where he did go down, and I was thinking, we don't have anybody on the bench. We have, maybe Ampadu would move to centre back, and then Gruev comes in to go and replace Ampadu in the middle. But that's so much shifting around that we'd have to do in order to cover one position, kind of thing, instead of just getting a centre back. But yeah, I just think that Farke's having to approach this differently than he did with Norwich. And I think the expectation on his shoulders is massive. And he's almost like he's cursed himself, because he's done so well so far this season, that I think that the expectation, like, I know me, I'm quite pragmatic, I'm quite realistic, I'm positive, but I'm also, I think it's because it's my personality, but also it's the job that I'm in, that I look at things from a very realistic point of view. And at the beginning of the season, again, my opinion, I think that I would have been happy with the playoffs, given the turmoil and people say about the fact that we've, obviously we've got an amazing first 11, and that these players, we should be doing better. But was anybody saying that Rutter was going to be as good as what he is at the beginning of the season? Like, Rutter has only become this good during the season. Most of us would have been happy had we have sold him in the summer and got our money back for him. So I think that there is a lot of people that are backtracking and saying, with this team, we should be better. Well, Somerville wasn't 100% proven. Rutter wasn't proven. Dan James had been with, the club hadn't treated him very well last season, so we didn't know what player we were getting back, whether he'd actually want to come back and stay, or whether he'd want to go out and say, no, sod you all, you didn't want me last season, so I don't want to be here. He's not that kind of a person. We've seen that now, but we didn't know all of that. So it's quite easy to say, yes, with the players that we've got, we should be doing better, but we didn't actually know how good these players were until Daniel Farke has brought it out of them. So he's kind of struggling with the fact that he's been so good with our attacking players, that the expectation, he's actually kind of raised the expectation because of how good he's managed to make those players become. So I would still it makes me anxious. Do I want to go up automatically? Of course. But I would still be happy with the playoffs as long as we're high up in the playoffs. As in, like third, realistically. If we're sixth and barely scraping in, I don't think we have a good attitude going into it. Whereas I think if we're third, I think we've got a really positive attitude going into it, and I think that mentality. A lot of these players are really young, so I think they're growing up whilst they're playing. Yeah. And if we get to the end of the season and we've done everything that we possibly could have done to get automatic and just miss out, but we're still playing really well, I think that gives us a massive, edge to a lot of the other teams in the promotion race.
I agree with that. I think a lot will put on at the start of the season with, you've got these players, you've been in Premiership, you should roll straight back up. It's not as easy as that. It's not as easy to say that. I think a lot of players last season, Cree Somerville, Reuter, although Cree were a bit of a shining thing. This season, I think they found the feet a little bit more at Leeds United. I think they've come into their own at Leeds United a lot more. And the players now that we can't afford to miss having them in the starting lineup. But what worries me is if you take them out of the starting lineup, there's not much there creativity-wise, quality-wise. I mean, Dan James, this is his best season he's ever had at Leeds United. In the seasons that he's been here previously, the goal scores that he scored. So it does prove that somebody coming in with a different mindset as a manager can actually change, turn players round and actually make them want to play football. And Daniel Farke has done an extremely good job of what he walked into. He's, and if you look at it, and we're sat here the other day and we were saying, we're this many points behind now, but that actually has decreased. Even though, we've had two shitty, losses away, we're only, 7 points off Ipswich. Leicester are gone for me, that's it. But I do think that second place is a three-way grab for it. I think Ipswich will be up there, I think we'll be up there, and I think Southampton will be up there, and I think that's the positive that we still have to look on, is we're not a million miles away. Because Ipswich, I don't think they've won in 5. I think more draws than anything.
Yeah, I think so.
Their form's a little bit, and they're losing players now. So that is a lot of positive. But if we cannot work a way to win from home, or at least get a draw away from home, that's where it could cost us this season. I hope this game gives us actually this stepping stone now to think, actually now we're going to go on a nice little run. We've got a game at weekend that some people will be bothered about winning. Some people won't be. I personally wouldn't mind seeing a cup run. It's something to take your eye off the Championship. It takes that bit of edge off, and it gives players a run out for me, and it gets to see some players that might not play many games for Leeds this season. It's all about now for me. The home form's no issue. I've got no qualms with that. I think we'll win majority of our games now at home, but the away form for me is a worry. What about you, Stu?
Well, look, there's a reason why Leicester are at top and Southampton are going to be close for pushing second. They've been established in Premier League a lot longer than Leeds United have. They didn't lose half as many players as what we lost. And if we finish third, I think that's a good season for us. Personally, I think it's a really good season for Leeds. Mm-hmm. When the season started, I'll be honest with you, I thought we'd finish lower mid, about 10th to 14th. I honestly believed that that's where we were going to finish. When we started losing one player, then another player, we weren't replacing them, I were getting a bit worried. I never thought we'd be up there challenging for top 2. Never. And Farke's done a brilliant job getting us to that point.
Yeah, I agree, Stu. I think that I don't think, I think we keep striving for top 2, and I think we go and go and go until there is no possibility that we can get there, and hopefully we can get there. Mm-hmm. But I think that records are there to be broken, in my opinion. And yes, we do terrible in playoffs. But I made a point the other night, and not many people agreed with me, and that's absolutely fine. But this team hasn't been in a playoff together. This manager hasn't been in a playoff situation with this club before, with these players before. There's still so much that can change. You know, West Brom could come out and go on an unbeaten run and smash all of us and be the dark horse and get automatic. You know, there's so many things. I agree with Jess in the fact of, I think Leicester are done kind of thing. I think Leicester could go on a losing streak and still manage, you know, just like Ipswich are currently doing. They haven't won in 5 and they're still top 2 because they've got such a good cushion that they can afford to do that. And I think Leicester are in the same. You know, they could, you know, obviously they've got a lot of players going to AFCON. I know they're usually the fringe players, but you still need a bench. You know, if you don't have those players there, you can't rely on them. It puts the pressure on the starting 11 saying, I can't go into that tackle because I might get injured. And if I get injured, there's nobody to cover me. So, you know, it adds tension, it adds pressure onto the manager, onto everybody. So, yes, they may not be starting 11, but they're still important. Just like we're concerned about Cresswell going out because we won't have cover for Rodon. So it does add pressure, but they now have such a cushion of points that they can afford to probably lose 3 or 4 games and still be in the top 2. If not first, they'll still be in automatic places. So I would still be happy. Yes, obviously, if we can go up second, that's great. You know, it just removes all the stress and things. But could you imagine if it's the last game of the season and it's between us and Southampton for that last place? If Ipswich have had a fall off and it's between the two of us, we're at home to Elland Road, and that game is the decider of who takes that final promotion spot. That's just as bad as going for playoffs. You know, like that's just as, you know, like there's just as much pressure in that situation that there is, you know, and it's just, you know, I think that we could do it, and that could be blind faith, but you know, like that's fine. You know, I'm fine with that. We hadn't beaten Millwall away for 12 years, and we went and thumped them 3-0. So records are there to be broken, and if there's a team that are going to break it, then why not make it this one? Why not make it the second youngest starting 11 in the Championship? Why not have that team, you know, filled with kind of. Sometimes naivety helps. You don't have that pressure. You don't have that kind of, oh, we've been here before, we've done it before, we've lost before. You just don't have it. You know, we've got youth, and we've got, you know, use that naivety, use that youth, use that positivity for your advantage, rather than just the constant pessimism that we have as Leeds fans of saying, oh, well, we've not done it before, and kind of writing it off before we've even given them the chance to perform. And it's exciting. And also, regardless, these players, even if they don't necessarily want to be here, even if we do get promoted, I think Cree and Rutter would stay with us if we got promoted. Obviously, if we got relegated the following season, yes, they'd 100% be gone. But I think, you know, I follow them both on Instagram. Cree is a very religious guy. Like he's very loyal, very religious. And if we got promoted, I think that he would. I think that loyalty would come back, because he's been loyal and stayed with us in the Championship, but we've created a platform for him. You know, nobody really knew who he was, and now everybody knows who he is. You know, there's lots of interest from lots of different Premier League teams, which is why we have to go up, because even if we are to lose him in the summer, we'd lose him for double the fee, essentially, because we're coming from a place of power and strength rather than weakness.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think I'm just looking at Bandy's comment here. Never mind Leicester, we're still looking to win this division. Look, I agree with the thought that we'd like to go up as champions, absolutely. But I honestly believe that there's too much to do. I really do. And I love your optimism, I really do. And I hope I'm proved wrong. But what about you, Stu? What do you think? Do you think we could go up as champions? Because I really don't.
Well, I'll be honest with you. I think I think we're going to end up if we're going to go up, it'll be through playoffs. I haven't got, I'm as positive as anybody, but you've got to, Leicester, they have to go up. Otherwise, they're going to be financially ruined if they don't go up. So that that they've got they know what they've got to do. They know that they have to get promoted. So this is why they're winning as many games as they're winning. Second place is up for grabs for me. It's still up for grabs. But I do think the team, we've drawn too many games so far this season. And, I think that's why I don't think we're going to get promoted automatically.
Evie, what do you think?
Yeah, I think that's Stu, you're right. We've dropped so many points, silly points, that this may sound a bit odd, but I would give up the Ipswich and Leicester wins in order for us to beat Rotherham, to beat Stoke, to beat Coventry, to beat West Brom. They can have their 3 wins. I would happily give that up in order for us to do the jobs, because that's what they've done. They've given up those wins against us in order to do the jobs against all the lower teams. So we need to do that, because it's a slog, is this league. The only positive that I would take about from losing to average championship clubs and beating like Leicester and Ipswich is the fact of Leicester are like 99% they're going up, and we've already beaten them. So if we play them in the Premier League, we already know that this team can beat that team. So that is a good thing. And we've seen it from Liverpool this season dropping points to Luton. Chelsea almost losing points. Luton deserved a point against Chelsea the other day. So Luton beat Newcastle, didn't they, 1-0? So if Luton are very much a championship caliber team, so if you put them, if you kind of put them in the Premier League, then we can beat them. But if you put them in the Championship, we've lost to them, and those are the teams that we need to beat those teams. So I'd rather lose against Ipswich and Leicester and win all of the other points.
I'm just looking at this here from Gaz. Yeah, right, Gary lad. Is Evie saying Leicester and Ipswich threw games against us to concentrate on smaller teams? No, I don't think that's the point.
I'm not saying they threw them, but they could afford to not concentrate fully in those games, whereas we couldn't. Again, I don't mean this to sound rude, but it's like us against Man U. That right now, nowadays, is a bigger game for us than it is for them. I'm not saying it's not important, because every rivalry is important, but they can afford, and they've only dropped a couple of points against us in 3 years. But it's a bigger game for us. So in those Ipswich and Leicester games, they were a bigger game for us than they were for them, because they're just running along nicely and getting their jobs done against the smaller leagues, lesser competition. I'm not saying smaller clubs, but you know what I mean. Yeah, the clubs that aren't going to bother them right now, whereas they can afford to lose points against us. We couldn't, but we're still 17 points away from them. So what was the point of beating them and stopping us being 17 points away in October? Because we're now, with fewer games left to play, we are now 17 points away from them.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with that. So that's the thing, where Ipswich and Leicester have won the smaller teams and lost to ourselves. They're sat comfortably above us, and that's why we have to, for this new year, new start, we have to work out a way of winning away from home, whether that's draws, wins. That's where we are, unfortunately, sat where we're sat, more because of our away form. Our own form is absolutely fantastic. We seem to be very comfortable at home, and then when we go away from home, we seem to struggle. Our performance don't look the same sharp. We look zapped of energy. We struggle away from home a lot, and that's for me what we need to address. That's what's killing us now, is our away form. I mean, Danny Rumsey made a good point earlier, and I just want to get your two thoughts on it. Perot, so obviously he got dropped yesterday for Bamford. He didn't do a lot for me when he came on. Does that mean, come Cardiff, that Perot starts, or would you stay with Bamford? Evie?
Keep Bamford on.
If he's fit, I'd keep Bamford because they're going to play. Let's have a look, see where Cardiff are in the table. See, Cardiff they're not that far behind us. They're only 11 points behind us, so they're in playoff form essentially. And obviously, they've had some really good results. Yes, they've won as many games as they've lost, but they've won the games. They've only won 3 less than us. You put West Brom, Preston, and Stoke game in, and that's how many games we should be ahead of them. We're only three wins away from them. But I think he keeps Bamford as up top, and I think we'll know who's playing up top as to who plays next week in the FA Cup. I think if he starts Pirro, then Bamford starts at Cardiff. If he starts Bamford, then Pirro starts at Cardiff.
This is an interesting. If we win our 20 remaining games and Leicester lose 6, we are champions. Let's go. Wow. What's your thoughts on that, Stu? Great comment there, Ben.
I think it's going to really unrealistic to win 20 games. I don't think any team's going to win 20 games in second half, all their 20 games. I just think, we want to be hopeful, and we want to be, we want to say that we're going to do it and stuff, but I can't see us winning 20 games. I'm sorry, I can't.
Evie?
No, I agree. For as much as that would be wonderful and incredible and a fairy tale, and I would absolutely love it. It would just give me so much joy. I don't think it's realistic, because the thing is we are not having a bad season. In any other season, we're top 2. So, at the lowest, we're 3rd. But, and I think this is what's been the frustrating thing, is Farke is 100%, in my opinion, the right man for this job in a normal season. We are not in a normal season, and it has taken him slightly too long, for my personal liking, for him to adjust his methods. If we were in a normal season, he would not have played Bamford yesterday. He's had to change it because of the fact that, or in my opinion, because of the fact that he's finally realised that we are not in an ordinary season. We're over halfway now, and we're on track to have 2 record-breaking teams, and that means for me that he's had to adjust his normal kind of mantra of what he would do, because of the fact that he's realising they may not drop off. Yes, Ipswich are showing signs of dropping off. They are, and that's fine. But Leicester aren't showing signs. They had a tiny wobble and then have been on it since then. So, and the only team that they've really dropped points to, they dropped points to us and Middlesbrough, and obviously Hull much earlier on in the season. But they've only really dropped points recently to Leicester with the draw. And Sheffield Wednesday, they got a draw as well, I think.
Yeah.
So they haven't dropped many points. They've had tiny blips, whereas we've had more significant blips, kind of thing. And there's, never say never, but I think had Leicester and Ipswich had bigger drops, I don't think Farke changes his tactics. I don't think he alters things. I think the fact that because it's a record-breaking season so far for them both, he's been forced, his hand has been forced into making changes, because he was realizing that actually maybe they won't drop off. And then maybe by not changing his tactics, we've ruled ourselves out of automatics.
Yeah,
So I think he could have changed it earlier. I wish he'd have changed it earlier, but I think now is the right time to have changed it. I think if he would have waited any longer to change it, I think we rule ourselves out of automatic, because I think that we don't pick up the points. I think, to be honest, as poor as Birmingham were, had he have kept the same formation, the same tactics, I think we draw yesterday.
Yeah. I think you bang on what you're saying there, Evie. I really do. I think he's a stubborn man, is Daniel Farke, in that respect. And
yeah,
I totally get that he likes this preferred 11. But I looked at that team sheet yesterday, and Stu sent me it over, and I thought, wow. And Bamford, when he got called offside after 45 seconds, I'm thinking to myself, oh my God, please, no, please.
Yeah.
And it worked for him. Clarkson came in, looked really well, but he didn't have a lot to do with.
No, he wasn't really tested properly.
So obviously Meslier comes straight back in for me there. That's no. I think one that I've been a bit shocked at him last few weeks that I haven't seen him about, Luke Ayling. Not seen him on.
Yeah, he's been injured. I think he's got like a knee injury, but I think I haven't even seen him behind the scenes though. Like I saw Dallas on the video when Georgie was coming through the tunnel at the end, kind of thing, and he's there giving him a hug. I haven't seen him, so I don't know, because it's not like it was. I could understand it more if it was an away game, and if you're injured, you might not want to travel just to be there, kind of thing. You may just want to stay home and recuperate, kind of thing. But he may have been given some time off over Christmas because of the fact that he's injured, kind of thing. But it's just getting a bit sad, isn't it, really? I think they're all fully aware now that there isn't going to be an extension for him, for Cooper, and probably for Dallas as well. Dallas may not play again. Like it may be the point that if he may not want to leave to go and start afresh. I think Cooper and Ayling have a better chance of going and finding another club than Dallas does, because they have played this season, whereas Dallas hasn't played for a year and 3/4 now. So, probably by the time he's fit, it'll be 2 years, and he'll be 32, 33 himself. So that's 2 years without playing football, 2 years older than you were when you got the injury. You were already 30 at that point. I think there's just maybe too much. So I think he may even stay at Leeds, but in a coaching capacity, he may choose to hang his boots up. I think he'll be the first to hang his boots up out of the three of those.
Yeah, I agree. Stu, what do you think on that?
Yeah, I agree with what he says. It's like she said earlier on, we're not a charity even now. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
We've got to move. Unfortunately, we did it with Berardi. We give him an extra year when he was injured. We just can't do it now. And I think the Stewie Dallas, I know we've been, I know we were buzzing for him going back to training and stuff, but he's not going to kick another ball for Leeds United, I don't think, personally. I really don't. I think he's done.
I think
I'd love him if we were promoted, like if we were already done and dusted by the last game of the season. So if we had managed to get that second spot, I'd love him to come on in that Southampton game. Yeah. I'd love all three of them to play for the last bit. If we're already promoted and it doesn't mean anything, and we can kind of risk having the three of them playing together at one point, I would love them to do it, because obviously Berardi and Pablo didn't have a full Elland Road to say goodbye to. They had, what was it, like a quarter of the amount of people because of it was COVID times and things. But it would be nice for the three of them to have a proper send off, because they've all captained at one point. Obviously Cooper's club captain, Ayling second, and then Dallas was third at one point. So they've all captained Leeds. It's going to be a sad day, but I would love it. That's why I would love us to continue to try and get automatics until there is no possibility for us to do it, because I would like for there to not be the pressure on that Southampton game. I would love for us to be able to give everybody the send-off that they deserve for the amount of loyalty and for all of the good times. Yes, it's been hard the last few years. We haven't seen the best out of them probably since Bielsa, but they deserve it. But you know, like we said, Stu, that we're not a charity. They deserve a good send-off, but we can't take passengers anymore. You know, we have to say goodbye. And even, you know, like I said, I don't think Stuart Dallas will come back and play. I think if he doesn't play for us, I don't think he plays, you know, or he has to take I think, you know, he has to go down to League One. I don't think he'd get in a Championship club just with the lack of minutes that he's had because of him being injured. I don't think he'd be good enough or consistent enough to play Championship football, you know, and I know it was his own fault. I know, you know, I don't blame Jack Grealish. I blame, you know, but I blame Jesse Marsh for that. He put so much pressure on them by telling them to, you know, to be aggressive without actually giving them any tactics as to how to be aggressive in the right ways. Yeah. And because of that, he broke his leg to the point that, you know, career-changing injury.
Yeah, absolutely. I couldn't have said it better myself, mate, to be honest with you. I think, although they've all been very loyal servants to Leeds, time's moved now. And they will... Liam Cooper, when he's come in for his last two games, he's done all right. You know, I'm not going to slag the bloke off. He's Leeds through and through, and I'd love to see him get, you know, coaching roles. But I think Liam Cooper's got a little bit still to offer. I think he'd get another club. And they're at that luxury now where they can go and sign somewhere else, can't they, without having 6 months left on the deals. They can go out and I think, you know, time's moved on now, and unfortunately, you know, Luke Ayling, I'll never knock him because when he comes on, you know, he lives for that shirt. I will say that for the bloke. He is 100% Leeds United through and through. But time moves. Just a quick one before we end this one. Man at matches for you yesterday. Mine was Rooter. I thought he was outstanding yesterday. I thought he did a lot of work off the ball. Thought he was defending. He was right at corner flag, you know, helping out his defenders. I thought he had an absolute stellar game for Leeds. And Bamford scored. And, you know, I'm not going to give that on merit. He's got to do a lot more for me yet. If I get to end of the season, and I've seen a couple in there saying he'll probably get 10, 15. I hope he does. I really do hope I'm proved wrong and that he does get that. At the minute, he does enough to, for me, start at Cardiff. I don't think he did anything wrong, so I wouldn't mind seeing him start. I think it's time Perot got a rocket up his arse, and now we're given that bit of competition there where he thinks, but you know what, I'm going to have to do something because otherwise Bamford's going to start. So I think that offers, at least it offers that, you know, bit of competition up front. We do need to strengthen left back. Cam really does need. We need another number 10. I know there's a lot of rumours floating about at the minute with Brooks and Carvalho at Liverpool, but I don't see him dropping down to the Championship.
He isn't coming. He isn't coming. No, he's not coming to us. And if he did come down to the Championship, I would probably say it's more a Southampton. I don't think Leicester, because I think they've got too much competition already in that spot. But yeah, just. How you know, is he a right winger?
Yeah, and he's
so Dan James, how could you do that to Dan James right now? You know, like you couldn't take Dan James out, you know.
And it's not what's needed for me. I mean, there's a guy that I just wanted to bring up who Leeds are interested in at Liverpool, which is Callum McDonald, and he's a left back and he's coming through for Liverpool. And I've heard Leeds are very interested in him on a loan deal to end of season. I watched him at me and Harry went to watch Bradford and Liverpool under-21s, and he looks a decent player. He's very much like Junior Firpo, but can defend. If you could get him on a loan deal.
Don't say things like that. He's very much like Junior Firpo.
Great forward. He's a bit like Trent, but he's great at defending, but he can do the overlaps. Callum McDonald. Yeah, he's at Liverpool, Harry, but yeah, he's one. That could, if you got him on loan, just do you till, you know, end of season and then, you know, reevaluate that one. But yeah, obviously that we're digressing from what I were on about. Yeah, for me, my man at match were Rooter. Evie?
Well, do you want another funny thing is I've just seen it in the chat. Me and Danny Rumsey agree, because I was actually going to go with Daniel Farke as my man of the match for changing the formation. I was going to I was going to say it last night on Joe's as well, because I just think that it takes a big person, and especially a big kind of man, to change something, to go away slightly from your philosophy and to say, right, I'll swap this around. And I think that was massive. I think Daniel Farke, and we can't just criticize Daniel Farke when we lose games. We have to compliment him when we win games. For me, Daniel Farke won us that game by putting Rutter in the 10 and having a striker.
Yeah, Danny, you did.
Yes, Danny, don't get used to it though. But by having a striker at an actual striker's position, and I was glad to see when Pirro came on that that he kept Rutter at the 10 and Pirro went on at the 9. I was really happy to see that. So yeah, for me, my man of the match was Daniel Farke.
Stu?
Well, I ain't as intelligent as Evie and Danny. You know what I mean? I were going to think inside box, and I were going to say Rutter as well. But just because we're using a bit more thinking outside the box, I'm going to say the fans for turning up New Year's Day.
Yeah.
After two rubbish performances, we still managed to get 36,000 in Elland Road on New Year's Day. I think that's brilliant. I think that's fantastic.
Yeah, fair play.
On the pitch,
that's a great shout.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is. And you know what? They are really good fans of Leeds United. I think they've got about a 4,000 allocation for Peterborough on Sunday, and they'll fill that quite easily. They have got really good fans, and you got to take credit to them that the guys that go home and away and travel out to them and go watch them, and sometimes don't always turn up to a great performance away from home, unfortunately. But my belief is that he'll turn it around the second half. I think it will be a 3-way tie for the top 2 position. I hope we are sat there come May and we are automatic, and Southampton game don't really matter. We do need to strengthen, and I'd like to see business done early. But obviously, I think we're going to get into that a bit. We're going to do a few more shows on transfers and bits and pieces, but I'll bring this one to a wrap. Obviously, thank you so much to Evie at the Discord of Peacocks, Stu at the Disabled Team. Check these guys' channels out. Smash a like and subscribe to their channels, because my channel won't be what it is without them both being on here with us. So big up to them for being up here today. Evie's just finished work, and Stuart as well. Obviously, Stu's doing watch along tonight over at Disabled Team, West Ham and Brighton. I'll be over there joining him as well. Evie will be about, as you know, she's in with Joe and everybody else. It won't be long before others are calling for her to be on there with them as well, because she's absolutely fantastic.
I'm on Friday night. I'm on Not Another Leeds podcast.
Oh, yeah. I will tune into that. Yeah. So, yeah, catching on Not Another Leeds podcast as well. Another lady doing bits. And just a little small one from me before I do go is be respectful to everybody, because we're only giving our opinion when all's said and done. We don't want the nasty comments that we've been getting and bits and pieces that have been in other chats with sexist opinions on women, because it takes a lot for women to sit on here as it is. I'm not getting into one and being thingy. I've not had it in my channel yet. Fingers crossed I don't have that. But we've had it in, obviously, other channels with men not really liking a woman's opinion. If you don't like our opinion, that's fine. Just don't subscribe to the channel and you don't have to listen to it. But we offer something different, and that is why I wanted to do this channel, on the sole basis of women feel comfortable to either come in my chat or to come on here. Any women that want to come on here, Leeds United fans or any other fans, and you want to come on and give yourself a voice, just drop me an email, comment on my videos, and I'll be quite happy to have you on, because I'm happy to give anybody a platform on here. But yeah, thank you all for joining us today at 5:30. We've had nearly 25 in house, which is absolutely fantastic, and I'm so pleased with how this has gone. And I can't thank you all enough for subscribing and getting me out there. And I appreciate each and every one here. But that's us done for today. We'll probably be back in weeks sometime. I'll be on with Stu as well. We've got a new, a new one tomorrow, Stu? You've got a new channel? New show coming up?
Yeah. If Evie, you're more than welcome to join. But Danny's going to be on it. You're going to be on it. Gary's going to be on it. It's going to be good. It's going to be good. Where we just
are you doing watch along for the game tonight?
Yeah,
watch along.
Yeah, West Ham.
West Ham. I'll be
tuning in.
Everybody knows I'm fond of West Ham. I take some stick for it, but I don't care. Well, I've got broad shoulders, as you can see.
I've got Bowen on my team, so I need him to score tonight.
Right, guys, we'll wrap it up. But do us a favour before you leave. Smash a like on this video. Subscribe to these guys' channels. Get your comments in below. And we'll see you all on the turn. Thank you so much, guys. Cheers.